It has been weeks since I did the last video. One of the reasons for the long wait is that when you are engaged in ministry, you have to be very careful of the message you give to others, and as I watched the US presidential race, and as I pondered the creation of this video, I became concerned that the point I wished to bring out could become blurred. I felt that the video could be misconstrued as an attempt on my part to campaign for Mrs. Hillary Clinton. I could have none of that. Not wanting to be misunderstood, I elected to do the video after the elections, when I could never be accused of conducting a campaign. So good, it is now behind us. Please note that this is not an anti-Trump video. It is not a political video. It is not an attempt to associate President-elect Donald Trump with the Watchtower organization. Rather, it is a look at the similarities between politics and religion, between Donald Trump and the Watchtower organization, between Watchtower members and people who support a political organization. Again, note, I did not say people who support the Republican Party, because while the examples here presented will be of Republicans, it is not unique to Republicans at all. It is common knowledge that the Watchtower prohibits members from participating in politics, which is often tied in with war.
Jehovah's Witnesses around the world are well known for their neutral stand when it comes to the politics and wars of any nation.
And they explain the rationale for such a position.
After resigning as city mayor, in order to preach God's kingdom as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, he explained why the efforts of sincere people in politics fail. The world is what it is, not because decent people have not tried to better social conditions, but, rather, because the sincere efforts of the few have been overcome by the wickedness of the many.
There you go. They see politicians as wicked people. And if good Watchtower members with sincere efforts get involved, they will become overcome by the wickedness of the many. But the similarities between the Watchtower religion and politics are amazing. The first similarity is dishonesty.
I watched when the World Trade Center came tumbling down. And I watched in Jersey City, New Jersey, where thousands and thousands of people were cheering as that building was coming down. How did he keep us safe when the World Trade Center came down? I lost hundreds of friends.
Donald Trump has a problem with the truth about everything, but it seems completely impossible for him to tell the truth when he's talking about 9/11. He did not see anyone celebrating in New Jersey, not thousands of people, not one. He did not lose hundreds of friends on 9/11. He didn't lose anyone, not one. And now we may have a new lie. The New York Daily News reports in the weeks after the brutal attacks, Trump pledged $10,000 to the Twin Towers Fund as part of an effort Howard Stern.
In the last few weeks, I followed the election campaign and I was appalled. I cannot recall ever hearing Donald Trump deliver a speech without telling a lie or saying something outrageous. Similarly, it is hard to read a Watchtower article or watch one of their videos and not be confronted with a lie or something outrageous. Take, for example, a popular lie that was repeated in their November 2016 broadcast.
At Matthew 24:45-47, we read that for the time of the end, Jesus would appoint a faithful and discreet slave or governing body to explain the Bible to his followers and help them to grow in understanding of the truth.
Ridiculous. As I have pointed out repeatedly, not even in their Bible can you read such a thing.
Who really is the faithful and discreet slave, whom his master appointed over his domestics to give them their food at the proper time? Happy is that slave if his master on coming finds him doing so. Truly I say to you, he will appoint him over all his belongings.
He would have been wrong if he had said that the verses speak a prophecy which, when interpreted, mean what they teach. That would have been bad enough. But no, the man said the verses read as he said. Listen.
At Matthew 24:45-47, we read that for the time of the end, Jesus would appoint a faithful and discreet slave or governing body.
When it is not a lie or an outrageous statement, it is an amazingly hypocritical statement.
It's one big, ugly lie.
News networks like CNN and MSNBC have been fact-checking Mr. Trump and Mrs. Clinton and have found them both to have lied to the American people. But they revealed Mr. Trump as telling more lies on the campaign than Mrs. Clinton. Yet he spent more time calling other people liars. Everyone, from his opponent to the media to women who accused him of sexually predatory behavior. Another similarity, as will be demonstrated in the next video. One Watchtower publication, The Finished Mystery, has more doctrinal lies therein than can be found in all Christian churches combined. Yet, like Donald Trump, the Watchtower is quick to declare everyone else as guilty of doctrinal lies.
All the churches of Christendom were included in modern-day Babylon. Why? Because they all taught doctrinal lies.
I did not know whether to laugh or cry when I heard this one.
I have great respect for women. Nobody has more respect for women than I do.
Reminds me of something. No one, according to the Watchtower, understands the Bible better than they do.
We all need help to understand the Bible, and we cannot find the scriptural guidance we need outside the faithful and discreet slave organization.
Take a look at this. Listen to the question.
You called what you said locker room banter. You described kissing women without consent, grabbing their genitals. That is sexual assault. You bragged that you have sexually assaulted women. Do you understand that?
No, I didn't say that at all. I don't think you understood what was said. This was locker room talk.
He was reminded of what he said and was asked if he understood that he boasted of sexual assault. He said no, he didn't say that, and that Anderson Cooper did not understand. How similar it is to the Watchtower describing its doctrinal lies as mere erroneous viewpoints. How similar to them describing their false prophecies as mere expectations held by the Bible students. So there you see some similarities between Donald Trump himself and the Watchtower organization. There's much more where that came from. Now let us look at the attitude of his supporters to that of the Watchtower members. There is an Access Hollywood tape that was exposed during the campaign in which Mr. Trump spoke to predatory sexual behavior on his part, including kissing women without their permission and groping them via the genitals. It was rather lewd. His running mate was asked a question. Please pay attention.
This was not just a lewd conversation. This wasn't just locker room banter. This was a powerful individual speaking freely and openly about sexually predatory behavior.
Meanwhile, the Trump campaign's top surrogate, Mike Pence, was asked this morning to defend his running mate from the First Lady's main charge. The Republican presidential nominee was speaking openly about sexually predatory behavior.
I don't understand the basis of her claim.
Pence said he does not understand the basis of Michelle Obama's claim. Let us see just how hard it is to understand.
This was not just a lewd conversation. This wasn't just locker room banter. This was a powerful individual speaking freely and openly about sexually predatory behavior.
I don't understand the basis of her claim. Donald Trump...
You don't believe his language was sexually predatory?
Well, no, I already spoke about my concerns about the language he used in that 11-year-old video, but what he's made it clear is that was talk, regrettable talk on his part.
Okay, fine. He regretted it. Fine. Let's forgive him. Let's forgive him. But the question is, that for which he is being forgiven, that which he regretted, was it sexually predatory behavior? That was the question. His wife was asked a similar question.
Michelle Obama, who you, I know, have spoken positively of in the past, she said last week about what your husband said on that tape. She said, this was not just a lewd conversation. This wasn't just locker room banter. This was a powerful individual speaking freely and openly about sexually predatory behavior and actually bragging about kissing and groping women. In terms of what he actually said on the tape, not saying he did it, but what he said, the behavior he described to you, is that sexual assault?
No, that's not a sexual assault. He didn't say he did it.
No, not to her. That isn't sexual assault. A woman here saying a man kissing women without their permission and groping them by their genitals is not sexual assault. Wow. I shudder to think at what she would actually consider sexual assault if this isn't. I'm telling you folks, watching the presidential campaign reminded me so much of speaking with Watchtower members. I asked one of them if when the Watchtower taught that Jesus returned in 1874, if that was a false doctrine. The man told me, no, it was not a false doctrine because it was not a teaching. Seriously now, what is this thing that makes people believe they must sacrifice integrity to defend? Here's why Mrs. Trump says it was not sexual assault.
He didn't say he did it. And I see many women coming to him and giving phone numbers and want to work for him or inappropriate stuff from women. And they know he's married.
You may say that we are at an advantage because we are now looking back on what is the past. That maybe at the time she did not quite get what Anderson Cooper said. Really?
In terms of what he actually said on the tape, not saying he did it, but what he said, not saying he did it, but what he said, not saying he did it, but what he said, the behavior he described to you, is that sexual assault?
No, that's not a sexual assault. He didn't say he did it.
Not saying he did it, but what he said, the behavior he described to you, is that sexual assault?
I read to the same Watchtower member the statement from the organization about their previous understanding of the modern-day Babylonian captivity. He said the previous understanding was not wrong. It was their understanding at the time. What is he saying? What's going on here? This performance, from a Seventh-day Adventist, I might add, makes the Watchtower appear right on the money on the matter of Christians going into politics.
Are you saying that these women are lying?
That's your characterization because you need to characterize it that way to try to make me the bad guy.
No,
but here's the fact.
No, you just said it could. It's a question. You're describing a closed-class cabin where there was no.
Stop. Hey, can you turn her microphone off, please?
No.
I felt so ashamed for the man. Sacrificing integrity to defend a cause. Shameful. Here's what is ironic. That is politics. But Watchtower members are just the same when it comes to religion. The same burying of the head in the sand. The same denial. The same obvious desire not to face the uncomfortable questions. Approach one with a microphone and see what happens. In fairness to them, however, I have seen a few of them on camera who knew a microphone and the camera were there. But will you please turn off the microphone? Is a common request with them. Ask a Watchtower member, was that a false doctrine? And you will get something like, that is your characterization because you need to characterize it that way to try to make the governing body look like the bad guys. Sounds familiar? But the situation gets interesting. Here is a Republican explaining why so many of her peers became overnight spin doctors.
I think part of the problem, Chris, is that the Republican leaders are very intimidated by the Trump supporters. And this has been going on since the very beginning, since the primary season.
Watchtower members are intimidated by the governing body, and this has been going on for a long time. They probably would love to be honest with themselves, but not when so much is at stake. And it gets worse. As it turned out, it is easier to find an honest politician than it is to find an honest Watchtower member. I hate to say it, but it is true.
I think it's really quite appalling what is happening within the Republican Party. And I can tell you, as somebody who has been a long-lived Republican, somebody who has worked for presidents who were in the Republican Party, who's tried to elect Republican candidates, I am deeply ashamed at what is happening within my party and the lack of courage that is being demonstrated by too many people in the party.
How many Watchtower members are willing to openly admit that they are ashamed of Watchtower lies, the protection of pedophiles, the sordid history of false prophecies and false doctrines? How many?
Stop defending Trump. That message, I still want to, shout it loud and clear. They've got to stop defending this man.
Dear Watchtower members, that is a politician speaking. She would be described by you as a wicked person, a part of Satan's system of things. She, however, has the decency, the honesty, the integrity to stand up and speak to something wrong in her party and calling on her colleagues to stop defending Donald Trump. How many of you have the decency, the honesty, the integrity to call on your colleagues to stop defending the governing body? Here's the answer. None. For the day that any of you decides to become honest enough to do that is the day that you cease to become a member of that organization. In other words, what I am saying is, Watchtower members do not have that honesty. Apostates do. In other words, current members do not. Former members do. To develop that level of honesty is to go through a metamorphosis that makes you a so-called apostate. What does that tell you about the organization to which you belong and that you are defending? How can it be that you are worse than what you criticize? You ought to be better than politicians, not worse. Well, the elections are over. Before the elections, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was Crooked Hillary. After the elections, America owes her a debt of gratitude for the tremendous contribution she has made to the country, said Trump. Before the elections, Barack Obama was America's worst president, a total disaster, clueless. But after the elections, he is a very smart man whose advice will be sought by Trump. Before the elections, Obamacare was a total disaster, and I mean a total disaster, which must be repealed and replaced. But after the elections, some wonderful features of the total disaster must be preserved. Before the elections, the whole system was rigged. After the elections, well, ask a Watchtower member to explain that to you, and you probably will be told that the light of truth gets brighter, that he has gone through a refining, that now he has new light. I saved this one for last.
You know, when we have a world
where you have ISIS chopping off heads, where you have, and frankly, drowning people in steel cages, where you have wars and horrible, horrible sights all over, where you have so many bad things happening. This is like medieval times. We haven't seen anything like this, the carnage all over the world. And they look and they see. Can you imagine the people that are, frankly, doing so well against us with ISIS? And they look at our country and they see what's going on. Yes, I'm very embarrassed by it. I hate it. But it's locker room talk, and it's one of those things. I will knock the hell out of ISIS. We're going to defeat ISIS. ISIS happened a number of years ago in a vacuum that was left because of bad judgment. And I will tell you, I will take care of ISIS. So, Mr. Trump, we should get on to much more important things and much bigger things. That was locker room talk. I'm not proud of it. I am a person who has great respect for people, for my family, for the people of this country, and certainly I'm not proud of it. But that was something that happened. If you look at Bill Clinton, far worse, minor words, and his was action.
Just what is the point of bringing up Bill Clinton? Answer: to shift the focus from the wrong he did. That was the most glaring similarity to the Watchtower organization, and especially to Watchtower apologists. I see it ever so often right here on this channel. When Watchtower apologists cannot put forward a credible response to the charges of the fraud that the governing body is, they believe, apparently, that changing the focus to other churches can help. Sorry, it may work for Donald Trump. It will not for you.
May the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with you all.